Russia has such hidden natural advantages through which it could once again become a superpower. On one hand, a large part of Russia is covered with ice, and on the other hand, it is surrounded by NATO allies. After America, what is stopping Russia, the world's largest country, from becoming a superpower? The title of superpower, which is currently held by America, may return to Russia in the future. But the question is, how? What changes could take place in Russia's geography that might help it become a superpower again? Viewers, we all know that Russia is the largest country in the world by land area. Imagine this. When the sun rises in western Russia, it is already nighttime in eastern Russia. Russia is not only the largest in size, but it also holds some of the biggest oil and gas reserves in the world. It ranks first in natural gas reserves and eighth in oil reserves. According to a 2021 survey, many European countries depend heavily on Russian gas. On average, about 40% of Europe's gas supply comes from Russia. This means that if Russia were to stop supplying gas, it could severely impact the entire European economy. Along with energy resources, Russia is also one of the world's largest exporters of wheat, contributing around 18% of global wheat exports. Despite all these advantages, Russia's geography is also one of its biggest weaknesses. A major portion of its land is extremely cold and largely unusable. This region is known as Siberia, where the average annual temperature is around 0.5 degrees Celsius. The coldest inhabited place on Earth is also located here. This place is called Oymyakon, where winter temperatures can drop to an astonishing -71 degrees Celsius. Because of such extreme conditions, Russia's population remains relatively small. Around 75% of the population lives in just 20% of the country's land area. This imbalance has been a challenge for centuries, and Russia has not yet fully overcome it. Not only its land, but even Russia's coastline presents challenges. Russia has a coastline of about 37,650 kilometers, longer than that of the United States. However, much of it lies along the Arctic Ocean, which remains frozen for most of the year. This makes the coastline largely unusable for trade. In general, countries with better access to open seas can trade more easily, and increased trade leads to greater economic and political power. Sea routes are the cheapest way to transport goods across the world. Due to heavy ice, cargo ships find it extremely difficult and dangerous to operate in these regions. As a result, despite having such a long coastline, Russia faces major limitations in global trade. Currently, Russia relies heavily on three main ports. One of them is Vladivostok port in the east. Even here, the sea freezes for several months. During the summer trading season, Russian ships must pass through the Sea of Japan, which is closely monitored by countries allied with the United States and NATO. Another important port is Port of St. Petersburg. This port also faces freezing conditions for part of the year, and ships must pass near countries that are either NATO members or close allies of the United States. The third major port is Port of Novorossiysk, located on the Black Sea. While ice is less of an issue here, ships must pass through narrow and strategically sensitive waterways controlled by Turkey. Although relations between Russia and Turkey have improved in recent years, Turkey is still a member of NATO. This means Russia still faces strategic risks in this route as well. In summary, despite having such a vast coastline, Russia must wait for favorable conditions to trade and often depends on routes influenced or controlled by NATO-aligned countries. But despite all this, Russia ranks 11th in terms of GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. Simply put, the total income generated by all the people in a country is called its GDP. GDP rankings give an idea of how successful a country is. However, this is not the only way to measure a country's power. Apart from GDP, if we talk about military strength, Russia has the largest number of nuclear warheads in the world, even more than the United States. And after the United States, Russia is considered to have the second most powerful military in the world. Even here, if Russia is not number one, the reason is again its extreme cold climate. Ironically, this same cold weather has also protected Russia from invasions throughout history. Napoleon Bonaparte once tried to invade Russia with more than 600,000 soldiers, but due to the brutal winter, his army was forced to retreat. and only about 100,000 soldiers managed to return alive. During World War II, Adolf Hitler attacked Russia with 380,000 soldiers. However, more than 1 million German soldiers were killed, and the remaining survivors were captured by Russian forces. Hitler was so devastated by his defeat that he eventually took his own life. You may have noticed that the same factor holding Russia back, its extreme cold, is also the reason no one has been able to conquer it. This means that if this cold climate were not such a barrier, Russia could become far more powerful by utilizing its northern seas for trade. In addition, large parts of Russia are rich in valuable minerals like gold, uranium, and diamonds. However, due to the harsh climate, extracting these resources is extremely difficult. If the cold conditions were reduced, these minerals could be mined efficiently, helping Russia reach new heights of economic success. Also, one of the most basic human needs is wheat. As mentioned earlier, Russia is already one of the largest exporters of wheat in the world. If Russia can achieve this using only 20% of its land, imagine what it could do if it were able to fully utilize 100% of its land. In that case, it could potentially surpass the United States in GDP rankings. Interestingly, there is one factor that could reduce Russia's cold climate: global warming. Due to global warming, there is a possibility that Russia could once again rise as a superpower in the coming decades. For example, consider global temperature patterns. Regions with an average temperature between 11 degrees Celsius and 15 degrees Celsius are considered ideal for human productivity. When temperatures fall below or rise above this range, productivity tends to decline. Currently, this ideal temperature range is found in countries like the United States, many parts of Europe, Japan, China, and South Korea. Interestingly, these are also among the most economically successful regions in the world. However, experts believe that due to global warming, this temperature zone will gradually shift northward by around 2080. This means regions like Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Iceland, and especially Russia could benefit significantly. According to NASA, Arctic ice has been melting rapidly. In 1979, the Arctic Ocean had a much larger ice cover, but by 2019, a significant portion of that ice had disappeared. Data suggests that Arctic ice is shrinking at a rate of about 13% per decade. If this trend continues, the Arctic Ocean could become nearly ice-free during summers by around 2035, and the country that stands to benefit the most from this is Russia. At the same time, climate change is also causing sea levels to rise. As ocean water levels increase, coastal cities around the world are at risk. Countries like the United States, where many major cities are located along coastlines, may face serious challenges, including the relocation of entire populations. This would cost billions of dollars. In contrast, Russia has only a few major coastal cities, while most of its major urban centers are located at least 600 kilometers inland. This could give Russia a relative advantage in the future. The Suez Canal is a major sea route that connects Asia to Europe. Ships from across Asia, including China, rely on this canal to reach Europe, paying heavy fees to the Egyptian government. Every year, around 20,000 ships pass through the canal, with each vessel paying approximately $400,000 in toll fees. This generates billions of dollars annually for Egypt. Currently, ships traveling from Shanghai in China to Rotterdam in Europe cover about 18,000 kilometers and take around 37 days. However, if Arctic routes become accessible due to melting ice, ships could travel through Russia, reducing the distance to around 10,500 kilometers and the time to just 22 days. This would save shipping companies millions of dollars in transportation costs. Naturally, in return, they would likely pay significant transit fees to Russia for using its controlled sea routes, from agriculture to natural gas, from mining valuable resources to population growth. Climate change could bring major transformations to Russia. There is a strong possibility that within the next 50 to 60 years, Russia could once again rise as a global superpower. I hope you liked and will share this video. Thank you very much for your support and kind comments. See you in the next great video.